Getting you through this rainy Monday, the Warriors made a move, and it happened before December 15th. And it's a move that they hope will get them back on the winning side of things. As hot as they started, it has not come together for them. They are sitting at 8th. At one point, they were first in the West very, very early on, but now they are sitting at 8th. And I believe I just said they were 2-8, 2-10. They're 2-8. Their last 10 games. It has been quite the struggle. So, with that being said, Evan Sittery, friend of the station, future friend of the show, says that the Warriors were unwilling to move Jonathan Kuminga to get the combo deal. Okay, acting like this is in and out, to get the combo deal for Dennis Schroeder and Cam Johnson. The Warriors are a bit delusional, okay, because they don't want to move Andrew Wiggins for Jimmy Butler.
Oh, for a half second, I thought that was Evan who was saying the Warriors are a bit delusional.
Excuse me. That's me.
I was like, dang, Evan said that in a tweet?
He's probably thinking it. They don't want to move. They didn't want to move Jimmy Butler. Or they didn't want to get Jimmy Butler. They didn't want to move Andrew Wiggins in order to do so. And now Evan Sittery is reporting that the Warriors did not want to move Jonathan Kuminga to get the combo. And I guess I don't know if it's Jonathan Kuminga and just add him, because if it's Jonathan Kuminga, I would assume it would be more, but I don't know. If it's Jonathan Kuminga, DeAnthony Melton in 3 seconds for Cam Johnson and Dennis Schroeder, I think the Warriors are tripping. I think I would have done that deal.
I don't know. Maybe it would have had to probably been a revised deal, because I would imagine
less second rounders maybe.
Well, let me ask you this. If those are the players we're talking about, is Kuminga the centerpiece of that trade, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay, so then probably picks are going the other direction, or maybe we're just not trading any picks? Who knows?
Right. Maybe it's just straight up. The point is, when you look at the Warriors and how they value Jonathan Kuminga, I said this on social media yesterday once the whole thing came out, because obviously my comparison has always been, not that they're the same player at all, but my comparison has always been Jonathan Kuminga to Keegan Murray as far as how these teams value their young talent. They are not the same players. I think Keegan Murray is better right now. I think that Jonathan Kuminga has a higher ceiling. So this is what I said once that was reported, and you have Jake Fisher saying it as well. The Golden State Warriors would have had to trade Jonathan Kuminga if they wanted to acquire Dennis Schroeder and Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets. To acquire both Schroeder and Cam Johnson from the Nets, as league sources say, was also weighed by the Warriors. Almost certainly would have required them to surrender Jonathan Kuminga. So my question is, as we open up the phone lines here, 916-339-1140, and this is what I said on Twitter, I think Kings fans can chill on the Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith package deal unless you want to give up Keegan Murray. Maybe that was obvious. Maybe that was an obvious statement, but a lot of people were chiming in, and a lot of people were saying that they would do that deal. Some were saying that they wouldn't. Some were saying that Cam Johnson is 28, 29 years old, and he's playing at a high clip. Do we think that's how he will continue to play throughout his career? Who knows? Right? So would you do that deal? Because there's no way you're getting both without Keegan Murray. That also tells me that you probably can get Cam Johnson without giving up Keegan Murray, but instead of seconds, those are going to be first rounders. Let's compare Cam Johnson's career to what he's doing this season. Cam Johnson, his career, 307 games, 12 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.8 assists. This season in 24 games, so small-ish sample size, 18.5 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.9 assists. He's shooting 43% from three. His career, he shoots 39%. He's shooting 48% from the field. He is shooting 45% from the field in his career. Even if we just compare it to last season with Brooklyn, last season he was at 13.4 points per game. This season he's at 18.5. Again, it's still fairly early. Minutes played, last season he was playing 27 points per game. This season he's playing minutes per game. This season he's playing 32 minutes per game. So if it's some version of Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson for Keegan Murray, and I don't know, you got to make the money work. So if it's Trey Lyles, Keegan Murray, thank you, Kyle. He's locked up now. Trey Lyles, Keegan Murray, assuming that money works, which it probably doesn't work because I know both those guys are making close to $20 million. So whatever you got to do, but the point is you're giving up Keegan. That's your main asset, and you're getting Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith in return. Would you do it? I feel like you'd have to, honestly.
No, I'm not doing it because Cam Johnson and Keegan, if the trade package is built around Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson for Keegan, Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, and draft picks, just take Cam Johnson and Keegan Murray out of the trade and just do the Dorian Finney-Smith deal, because Cam Johnson and Keegan Murray are basically the same player. And the whole point of going out to try and get Cam Johnson was to add multiple wings and multiple multiple players with length who can defend. The point wasn't just to switch.
Right. If you swap, you're still,
Keegan, I'll say this. Keegan Murray and Cam Johnson are basically the same player this year in terms of value. They're both 6'8". They're both
not the same player this year, though.
They're
Cam Johnson is playing better than Keegan Murray this season.
It's not as much as you would think. So in terms of efficiency rating, Cam Johnson is currently sitting at 14 point. Let me see. I have the numbers here. 14.5. Keegan Murray's at 13.3, which is slightly better. Cam Johnson this year, 13.4 points a game. Keegan Murray, 15 points a game. Keegan has more rebounds. Cam Johnson has 2.4 assists. Keegan has 1.7 assists. They're not. Cam Johnson's playing slightly better than
Cam's
Keegan.
at 18.5 this for points.
For points, he's at 18.5. Sorry, I've got wrong numbers.
Yeah, he's at 18.5 this season.
That was his last year, 13.4. Yes. So there you go. So Cam Johnson is playing better than him slightly this year, but the point, they're not that dissimilar. They're basically the same player at this point. So at that point, I would just do what I've said they've been doing the whole way through, which is just get to the offseason with Keegan and get to the contract extension window or the negotiation window. That I don't know why they would sell on Keegan now when we all agree he's having one of the worst he's having the 3 years of his career, this is probably the worst season of his career so far.
And I'm not saying to move off of Keegan. I'm saying anybody that thought that you could get two players of note from the Nets, if they needed Jonathan Kuminga for Dennis Schroeder, who's an expiring deal, and Cam Johnson, if they wanted Jonathan Kuminga from the Warriors, if you want that combo deal, Devin Carter ain't enough. If you want both, you're going to have to give up Keegan. I'm not saying you have to. You can do the Dorian Finney-Smith deal and keep Keegan. You could do that. I was just saying that conversation that had been had of get both guys from the Nets and keep Keegan, I don't see that being possible.
Yeah, that I think is fair because no, I shouldn't say that. Draft picks talk. The draft picks do talk. So I won't say outright it can't happen. It's just, again, Devin Carter plus additional draft compensation would be how to make it happen. And honestly, I think we realistically should not talk about both Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith being in a trade. It should be one or the other.
Yeah,
is what's going to happen there because the Kings aren't in a position to make large roster overhauls at this point. And if they were to trade for Cam Johnson, I think the way they make that deal happen is with draft compensation, not by swapping Keegan Murray for Cam Johnson.
Well, the other question is too, as much as you just kind of alluded to these guys being so similar, you already have DeMar DeRozan, and people had questions about DeMar DeRozan hindering Keegan Murray's growth. Then you bring in Cam Johnson. Couldn't you argue that would hinder Keegan Murray's growth as well?
Well, it depends on what they do with the rotation. So let's say for example, they put together the Cam Johnson for Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, and draft picks package, like we had been talking about before. Does Monk go back to the bench in that situation?
Maybe.
And if that's the case, does Keegan then play at the 3 while Cam Johnson plays the 4?
Right. And now you have, look, it's, I guess you could say a good problem because they can all shoot.
Yeah.
But there's only one basketball.
But I would make the point that if those two things are true, moving Keegan to the 3 would be, especially on offense, be beneficial for Keegan's development.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully.
I was just saying, but if they move Keegan to the bench, that's obviously not beneficial to his development.
I just don't see them moving. They're not going to move Keegan. If they got Cam Johnson, I think DeRozan might even go to the bench before Keegan. You just have so much invested in Keegan. If they were going to pull Keegan off the bench, I think they would have already done it.
Well, if they were even going to shop Keegan, they would have done it by now. I'm going to reiterate the same point, which is just that Keegan is the number 4 pick in the draft. He started basically every game the last 3 seasons. The team has a lot invested in his success, and it would be shocking if they moved off of him before they even got a chance to negotiate an extension with him. By the time we get to May, I'm sure we're going to have interesting conversations about what does Keegan Murray's contract extension look like, and we'll compare it to the Patrick Williams deal.
Right.
We'll compare it to all these other, players from the 2019 draft class or 2020 draft class. But I just would be shocked if the Kings just sold before they even got the chance to negotiate a 4-year extension with him.
Kings aren't just in talks with the Nets. They are also in talks with another Eastern Conference team. We'll tell you who it is on the other side. Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Folsom Lake Kia.
I'm meteorologist